From Central Missouri State to executive producer with the LA Dodgers Productions, it is Greg Taylor joining me on the On to Something podcast. I am Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. So we are going to have some fun taking a look at Greg's career, the stories that have come because of it, and learn more about his vision and how he's been able to carve out such an awesome niche in the industry. Greg, I appreciate you doing this. And before we go deep into your career, I want to start out with this first question, and that is, knowing that you work in association with the Dodgers, how long is it going to take until your son is playing for the Dodgers?
Wow. It's funny. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think for every dad that watches their kid play sports, they have these dreams of them possibly playing at a next level. And of course, my son is playing varsity baseball this year. He's pitching, and it's been fun to watch him, and I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can. And it's easy to daydream and say, like, wow, how wouldn't it be cool, to be able to work and watch my son, take the field at Dodger Stadium. But of course, you have to come back to reality, and how tough it is for something like that to ever happen. I mean, the amount of kids that play baseball every year, there's only a few that get to that level. So, but it's fun to fantasize every once in a while.
But Greg, not every son has a fastball that's north of 80 miles per hour. And to see him do that and it continuing to go up as far as the miles per hour, what thrill do you think he gets from knowing what a big fan you are of his career?
I'm sure, it's funny because last night I stayed up for a while and started editing clips of him because, we've gotten to a point now. He didn't play. He didn't make the team his JV year. And he had some injuries when he was younger. So, the fact that he played last summer and did well enough to make the team and then now is, doing well enough to be considering playing at the next level in college. I'm very proud of him for putting in the work like that. And I hope he sees that. So yeah, last night I was editing together a video of just some of his, the good pitches and not putting in the wild ones. But yeah, I work in promotions and advertising. I know how to sell something. But yeah, I hope he knows how proud we are of him right now. Yeah, it's been fun to watch.
How proud are you of yourself when you get that moment, Greg? And I know we are in this business where it's always what's next, and there's always the long hours and the grind of it all. But when you are able to carve out some time for yourself and reflect, what about you are you most proud about in terms of what you've accomplished?
I get to think about that every once in a while, especially as you said, went to Central Missouri State University. My family moved around a lot growing up. I happened to go to Central Missouri, had some family. My dad's from Missouri, Joplin, Missouri, so had some relatives living out there. So it was a chance for me to spend some time with them. And this, I was looking to get into broadcasting, and this school had a PBS station on campus and an NPR station. So it all worked out. But right as I finished school, my dad's job took him to Los Angeles. So I moved out here. I didn't know anybody.
Wow.
And, I didn't know when I was in school, I really didn't know the power of an alumni association. That just wasn't something that I thought about. And so, you move out here to a big city like LA, you don't know anybody, you don't have any connections. And I've gotten to where I've gotten on my own. I mean, over the years, I've, had some people put in some words for me, and that definitely had some good luck on my path. But the fact that, pretty much did it on my own is something that I'm proud of that.
How did you build up that motivation when you got to Los Angeles? And like you said, nothing was ever given to you. And when perhaps something comes your way and it doesn't work out, it didn't defeat you. So what about you said to yourself, let's keep going, we'll eventually break through, and sort of staying resilient, especially when you were trying to find your way at the beginning when you got to LA?
You know, my first couple of jobs in the business out of college, um, I worked, my first job in the industry out of college was at KEYT TV up in Santa Barbara. It was an ABC affiliate at the time. And, I left school with um, hands-on experience working at a TV station and master control and on-air operations. Now I did some other stuff, but that's really where I had enough experience that I could transition right into the job as a master control operator. And so that's how I got my foot in the door. And then when I moved to LA, I was working for this place called IDB Communications, which was a satellite company. They, uplink and down. They were the uplink source for Prime Ticket back in the day. And so I was working there, working with Prime Ticket and some movie channels. And eventually, when Prime Ticket built their own facilities, they asked me to move with them over to Century City. Um, I knew that I really didn't want to do master control forever, but I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I put in the time, and I got to learn a lot about what other people do and stuff. And fortunately, I got the opportunity at Prime Ticket when someone in the programming department put in a word for me, and I got the opportunity to go work in programming and eventually on-air promotions. And just that transition into like getting into the more creative part of the business it just took a little bit of patience, I'd say. And also, like I tell kids at school when I will sometimes speak to classes, like, try to find out as much as you can about where you work and what other people do, because it's definitely come in handy for you.
That's a fascinating idea that it certainly has paid off for you. Greg Taylor is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. So you made the transition into promotions, and obviously in doing so, you have to have such a skill in knowing what catches the eye and how people are going to then want to react to what it is and to find an appeal to lure them in. What is it about how your techniques and your ways of doing things from when you started as someone who was in promotions to now, as far as what is it that you think at the core of everything you do is the baseline of what you think makes people react to and want to take the next step towards your promotions, in that you are there to get their attention and they're able to want to follow through on that?
When I first started doing promotions, it was a matter of you find the best highlights that you can find, get a good music cut from your library music that you have access to, and then you slap an end tag on it and you try to create something that you hope catches the person's eye. And that's how I first, kind of got started, along with, at the time, the only thing that I was writing were these little tune in kind of promos that would run after the news show at night. So they had this like sponsored element like called What's on Tap. It was sponsored by a beer. And you say, hey, tomorrow night we got this, tune in. And that was like how I first started writing when I made the transition into promotions. But then, I was at this conference once that a coworker had told me it would be good for me to go to. It was called Promax BDA, promotions and marketing and graphic design. and I was there and I was like watching all of this fantastic work from other people. And I was like, I wrote a note down to myself, like, you need to write copy, you know? And after I just started to grow from that point. And I've been fortunate and I've had a lot of creative freedom over the years, and I've just injected, you know, um, I try to inject a lot of humor, or, get edgy. But it was, that helped me write. And then I don't know, I always had an interest in like programming, and in college, that was one of the classes that we had, this like broadcast programming class where you're trying to, you'd create this like scenario where you were a network and you're counter programming against other networks. And this is way back in the day when there was like three big networks, and Fox was just starting. And so it was a lot different than the universe that we live in now. But I always had kind of an interest in that thing. And there was one continuity writing class that I had in college where you had to write commercials. And I did enjoy that too. So yeah, I've always kind of had an interest in that kind of thing.
So writing commercials, pitching yourself, what was your way of pitching yourself when you first got started, and the way in which you presented your own commercial in a way to yourself, to others, in terms of wanting to work for them?
Well, I think, it first started when I was working in master control, and I was, having to run all of the programming and all of the commercials. And you're dealing with as working in radio, you have a log and you have commercial breaks. And I would look at it and like, well, how come we're not running a promo for this right now? It's, you got this big game tonight, or how come we're still running this? We should have something. And I just started to like talk to people and then like see what I was, seeing on the logs, and the need to be able to, better promote what we had coming on the air. And so looking at it from that point of view, and knowing the people that work in programming, it was, I showed the interest, and I showed that I had an interest in that part of the business. And so it was like just a temporary gig to get into the promotions that became full time. But yeah, that was kind of how I just, doing my operations job, but also kind of looking at the strategy involved in how you promote. And I think that's what helped me get into that line of work.
Greg Taylor is my guest on the Onto Something podcast. Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. Greg, of course, executive producer, LA Dodgers Productions. How did you allow yourself to celebrate this latest World Series for the Dodgers in 2020?
Well, I was actually at the stadium the night we won. And we were hosting a drive-in for fans to watch the game in the parking lot. So it was actually very, our usual game day, that was a home game. It would have been a home game for us. And so Major League Baseball made it possible for the teams to do their best to kind of run their game day type of shows remotely. So, we had a feed to Arlington where we could see like the inside the stadium. We were telling the crews that were working in the control room there, like what we wanted to run and when, and even like the prompts that our organist Dieter plays on the organ here. We'd say, okay, let's play a Let's Go Dodgers at this point. So our game day producer was on the phone with their production crew, and we were running it as much as we could as a Dodger home game. So while that was going on, we were in the parking lot and we had this drive-in experience, and we were taking in a feed of the game. And so I was helping to, make sure things were okay out there. And so when the final out, I was out in the parking lot, and it was along with one of our guys who had a camera out there, and we were shooting some footage and capturing just the joy of all of the fans that were there. And then, you're working, you're shooting at that time. And then, by the time it had kind of cleared out and I walked into the stadium, in this, completely dark, empty stadium, and I just let out a big scream, just like yes, and just let it out. So it was definitely a weird way to celebrate a World Series, but something you'll always remember for the rest of your life.
What did it feel like to then let out that scream and to finally see your team after all those years get back to winning a title?
It was great. I mean, we came so close and have been through the mess of 2017. 2018. It was great to be there, and you hoped that we could do it. Sure, you're in the World Series, why not? But it wasn't as much of a letdown as 2017 was. And then 2019, we thought we could go further than we did, and it was just in a rude ending. But I mean, I've been here doing since full time since 2010, so I've seen a lot, and it was great. I mean, that year was really, once the season started. I mean, the last time I saw any of the players, not that I interact with the players a lot, but it used to be, you'd be down on the field before the game, might see some guys, but the last time I saw players was at a shoot that we were doing in Arizona at spring training facility. It was actually the day that things started to get shut down. We had this big shoot that we were doing, and it was like that night was when they started pulling people out of the games in the NBA, and we're just like, what is going on? And then within the next day or so, everything is just changed forever.
How do you like the way that, even though since those moments changed things forever, you as a problem solver, you thinking outside the box, how would you grade the way you did that ever since that time happened?
Well, I think, our players were playing in a stadium of cardboard cutouts in the ballpark. And, myself and a great crew that we have here did our best to try to simulate a home game without fans in the ballpark. So, people would say like, well, what are you doing during those games? Well, we're playing music, we're rolling videos, we're doing the same kind of stuff that we would do during a typical game, just trying to give the players like some sense of normalcy. So, if we were able to help do that, I think we have something to be proud of, because it was a definitely unique situation for everyone involved, and it was just during those early days of the pandemic, there's all kinds of questions about safety and social distancing and the testing we had to go through. So I know we did a great job that year in trying to do our best, and there was all the crew here that went above and beyond.
Greg, how do you feel like baseball, in working in it, is healing for you, that it's cathartic for you?
It's I see the joy of the fans that come to the ballpark. And there's sometimes you just have people at the stadium, and then sometimes like we brought fans down onto the field for like a contest before the game. And it's something that people that work here will take for granted, like, oh, I'm walking on the field today. But then you see that through a fan's eyes, that experience of like, oh my God, I am stepping on the field at Dodger Stadium. And it's great to be able to know that you have a part in like helping fans enjoy something that they've loved for years, or are experiencing for the first time too. And you hope that you're able to help create an experience that wants them to come back. And it's fans there's different levels of fans, but some live and breathe by the teams, and you want to do right by them. So we do our best to do that. And it's definitely rewarding when things work out right, and that you had a part in like giving them a memorable experience.
You've helped facilitate a lot of fans and having memorable experiences. And because of that, there are a lot of people who are fans of you. I want to leave you with this last question. Greg Taylor is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. So, as for much as you do in terms of bettering the experience, and you see the joy of the fans and you helping them feel that way and getting up close and personal and bringing a smile to their faces with what you do from a game day production standpoint, when you go home, what sort of validation do you get from your family in that they really honor what you do? They recognize how good you are at what you do, and they let you know that.
It's they when they do come out to games, they'll tell me, what kind of time they had, what they enjoyed seeing, and how the fans reacted to something we did on the scoreboard or a fireworks show or whatever. And so I get feedback. But I think that, yeah, sometimes the hours are so long, they just want to have me home. And, it can be a brutal schedule, nights, weekends, days where you're working over 10 days straight where I remember when I used to drive my son to school, you drop him off in the morning, and then the next time you see him was the next morning when you're dropping him off to school because you get home so late and you don't see him. So, I think it's, while they like the job and have had some perks of my working here, I think they also would like to have me home too.
You set me up for this last question. I promise this is my last. What is Greg Taylor like at home when you do get some time off? What does the family man look like, that of Greg Taylor?
These days, I'm tired. I just want to watch TV. No, I love music. Music has always been. I mean, when I went to college and was thinking about getting into broadcasting, I wanted to get into radio because I wanted to do something music related. And so I love playing music, and it's been funny that over the last couple of years during this pandemic. My sons have both picked up guitar, and they each have their own different styles. But I'm pretty amazed. As I got frustrated, I wish I could have the patience to try to learn what they've been doing now, watching YouTube videos. And my son Michael plays classic rock riffs, and he's just going directly to trying to learn the solos for Layla and Freebird and Zeppelin, and then my son Gabriel is definitely, he likes punk and a lot of music that I have no idea where he hears it from, but really obscure music. But it's been fun to see them really get into music. And yeah, I love music, and we play music in the house all the time, and just hang out and try to have fun.
Well, even if you don't have the musical talents of your sons, you have hit all the right notes in your career. That's kind of one way to sort of transition the conversation. But Greg Taylor is with me, executive producer at LA Dodgers Productions. Greg, this was a lot of fun diving into your career, and thanks so much for the introspection, where we learned not only the man who is so instrumental in what he does Dodger game days and beyond, but also the man that we don't see, the one in the house, the family man, the one who is in awe of his sons. And certainly we might see one day, one or two of them play some big time baseball at a major league level. We can hope, and it could happen. You never know. Greg, I appreciate you so much.
Hey, Bryan, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.